Hello, this is the GPS Insight Podcast, and I'm your host, Carla Wardin. We're talking to experts about everything to do with fleet and field. From telematics to dash cams to GPS tracking to today's issues, we're exploring what's going on in our industry together. Thanks for listening. Hello, this is Carla Wardin on the GPS Insight Podcast, and today I'm talking with Tyler Mortensen, who is our VP of Strategic Growth. Hi, Tyler.
Hey, Carla. How are you? Happy to be here today.
Unlike everyone else I've talked to on the podcast, I actually met Tyler in real life this last month. So this is meeting number 2.
Yeah. It was long overdue. So we need to find ways to meet people in person more often without question.
That is really nice. Okay, so VP, what do you do at your job?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm sure that's how most of these podcasts start, right? Oh, good question. So I've actually done quite a few things at GPS Insight, but in my role today, which is actually evolving, about a year ago or coming up on a year ago, I was put into more of a strategy role. And essentially the idea and the goal was to really help build out and define the way that we sell, the way that we create value, and how we kind of pitch and tell that story to our customers in the different markets that we're trying to serve with the different products and services that we offer. So it changed from being, responsible for certain teams and trying to drive revenue within the organization and supporting customers to taking some of the things that I've been able to learn in the industry in my career here and trying to help provide feedback and go-to-market strategies for kind of a bigger picture approach within the organization. So I started working a lot more with product and have a lot of meetings with product around what the marketplace looks like, what competitors are doing, what our customers are asking for, and in a lot of ways, a sounding board or somebody that can provide perspective from what's going on in the industry around things that we might be able to offer. Do the same with marketing, but I think really try and help define our go-to-market strategies and build really good revenue growth approaches and strategies within each of our business units. So that's kind of where the role started. And then more recently, one of the changes that was made this year is that I now actually handle and own what we'd call strategic projects or strategic initiatives or actual direct opportunities with customers. So I'm kind of back in the seat and doing some selling these days as well, which has been quite a nice surprise, actually. It's something I enjoy quite a bit.
Everybody loves a surprise at work.
Yeah.
So when you are meeting someone for the first time and they say, "Oh, what do you do?" How do you boil that down to like one sentence?
That's hard. I typically say I'm responsible for helping build our revenue growth strategies at GPS Insight.
Everyone understands revenue growth strategy, right? They're like, you're the idea guy.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. They probably think what most people do, which is, I wonder what you actually do. So,
strategy, planning, meetings. Yes.
lots
So
of
you
meetings.
mentioned that you did something before. What was your role earlier when you were at GPS, and how long have you been here?
Yeah, I started in 2012 as a sales rep. I was hired in the Wild West days of GPS Insight. We at that point, I think there were 20, 22, 23 employees, and I was hired with a group of 4 people to come and help kind of grow sales for the first time in a while. But yeah, that evolved and it's changed, and I've done a lot of different things. But previous to my role that I'm in now, I was actually running our enterprise and government business unit, which included account management and kind of the entire revenue strategy for those 2 specific business units, which are very different. That's kind of where I think it led into more of a strategy role now, and maybe taking some of that perspective and thoughts and the approach I had there to other business units and working more with product and marketing to kind of help anywhere that I could.
23 people. That is so much fun.
Yeah, it's very different. It was a lot of fun, very startup-ish. But yeah, I joined the company fundamentally on the belief that the people that I had met with were people that I found, I don't know, I kind of had this idea or feeling that this is going to be a really fun journey, and people I wanted to work with and people I felt I could learn and grow and develop with. And that's very much been the case. But yeah, it was quite a bit different.
It's so interesting how you pick jobs based on a feeling, but you know, you get a good feeling about a place. It's hard to deny. So I'm glad you got a good feeling about this place. 2000.
Yeah. Yeah, I tell that story I've told a handful of people, but very much the case. So yeah, feeling ended up being one that I've enjoyed, and it's been a great career so far. And couldn't say I expected to be here, for 10 years, but I'm very happy. And we've had lots of different iterations as a company, and lots of different phases of growth, and different leadership and people. And it's been a great learning journey for myself personally.
Right. We've been talking about safety, and we are talking about how our products in particular help people become more safe. And one of the things I wanted to discuss with you, since you know a lot about it, are dash cams. How are dash cams improving safety for our clients?
Yeah, safety is absolutely one of the more relevant, if not the most relevant topic in the industry right now. I think it's kind of transforming the way that fleets look at telematics, and they look at the goals and initiatives they have around improving driver safety. So we kind of developed this approach internally where we think about safety as kind of a 3-level tier, where we see customers solving safety in one of 3 ways. And it's kind of been this natural evolution where, 10 years ago, they might have looked at something like speeding and just tried to focus on eliminating that behavior from their fleet. And at the time, you were able to get really great results just by that singular focus. And that might be like a level 1 safety approach, just to focus on a single behavior and try and solve for that. The industry grew, people started to do more. They wanted to aggregate data, and they wanted to combine speeding with hard braking and acceleration and all these other data points, and score behavior. And that's when the industry started talking about scorecards and driver scorecards, which we kind of refer to as level 2 safety. But there was always this missing piece of context, which is really, really important. It's hard to score a driver's behavior and say that they're doing something negative when you don't have context to what's actually happening. Mm-hmm. And cameras have really paved the way for that comprehensive view into safety, which we think of as level 3 safety. And it's that context that's provided that gives fleet managers or businesses that focus on safety this more comprehensive view into what's actually happening. So you take a hard braking event, and in and of itself, you don't know whether it's positive or negative. There's circumstances and situations that could lead to that event actually being a good thing, where the driver is doing everything they were supposed to. But only cameras really provide that insight. So I think the industry is really adopting the technology as a result of the cultures that they're trying to build. They're trying to protect themselves and their businesses, but also their drivers, and get them out of, situations where they're being falsely accused of doing something. But I think it's that context that's just the most concrete evidence of what's happening, and gives them the most tangible proof points of what they can improve and what they need to focus on. And I think that's why we're seeing such a rapid rate of adoption with cameras. It's pretty much happening in most of the discussions that we're in with prospects and customers.
Good. It is amazing with the quick adoption, and like you said, building a culture of safety, and something that obviously the drivers and management and everyone is interested in. For the scoring, how are people using dash cams as a training tool?
So there's actually a couple different use cases. A lot of cameras have a feature that allows you to basically do a live stream or jump into the camera's view and see what's happening. And we're starting to see a lot of companies use that as part of a training program, where it's kind of an opportunity to ride along, and they're building it into maybe the first, week or couple weeks or couple months of a new driver's implementation into the fleet, depending on what they do and what that operational aspect of the business looks like. But that's a unique way that we're seeing people actually start to do training for drivers specifically. It's kind of a ride along via the cameras. But more specifically, it's being used to help train drivers around safe behaviors and things that they can work on within the fleet. But you bring up a really good point. The industry is, as we've mentioned, is evolving rapidly, and cameras are being adopted rapidly. But the really big piece that companies don't always focus on, that's probably just as important or more important, is how they're going to coach and how that can be used as part of the training tool, right? So when you think about training, I'm taking that in the context of how do you train your drivers to operate on the road and be more safe, right? Which comes down to coaching.
Mhm.
And that's a really big aspect of the solutions that we try and offer and provide, and really how you do that at scale. It's something that most organizations don't really consider in terms of how it could impact their business, to have to sit down with the driver every week or every 2 weeks and coach them on behaviors that they need to improve in order to be safe.
When we're talking about dash cams, how about ours specifically? What sets Driver Eye apart from other dash cam systems?
Yeah, this is where you get into the technical weeds, and this is fun and challenging. There's, for example, there's machine vision technology out there, and there's computer vision technology within cameras, and the two are different, and they get very technical and sometimes hard to really understand the differences between the two. But there's a vast set of capabilities and technologies out in the marketplace, and what we've really focused on is, GPS Insight is not a hardware manufacturer. We don't make hardware, we never have, and it's not our intention to ever get into that business. What we focus on is software, and creating a great software experience within the software that we develop, and creating great customer experiences through the support and the services we offer through account management, and taking best-in-class partners that either provide that camera or the data that comes from the vehicle, the camera, and making that actionable within our software. So we spend a significant amount of time looking for the right partners on the tracking device side, but also on the camera side. And what we really felt we wanted to offer was something that would help our customers fundamentally change the way that they were managing safety. So first, it was important to give them that comprehensive view into safety and what's happening. And one of the biggest differences in the camera that we offer is it uses, I mentioned this earlier, but it uses computer vision, right? And that's a fancy industry word, but essentially what it means is it's looking at the road all the time in real time, and it's analyzing every minute of drive time on the road. And then using AI, again, another fun industry word, it's actually able to see what's happening and interpret what the computer is seeing. But one of the really advanced things about computer vision is it's actually able to see things in motion, and it's able to look at signs and read signs and different factors in real time that could be variable or changing, where machine vision is a little bit more objective and is just looking at a little bit of a different way, and has traditionally been used in other industries like manufacturing and assembly lines. So again, these are very technical differences, but the way customers can think about it is we're able to look at every minute of drive time, and then we can tell you whether or not that drive time is safe, positive driving because of the functionality and the advanced capabilities of that camera. We can actually look at a fleet and say, hey, if you spend 10,000 minutes on the road this week across all your vehicles, 60% of those minutes were safe, perfect driving, where they weren't distracted, they weren't texting, they weren't following the vehicle in front of them too closely, they were stopping at all their stop signs, they didn't run red lights. And across all these different behaviors that we can pick up via the camera, we can tell them that they were safe. And that's something that's incredibly unique. There's nobody else in the space that's capturing every minute and able to identify whether that was a positive, safe driving minute. And then we look at the other half of that behavior and say, okay, well, we need to understand what that risk looks like and prioritize the most severe risk events that are happening within the fleet, and make sure that drivers and managers have access to that so that they can be coached and improve the way that they operate that vehicle and eliminate those high risk events from their fleet.
It is really amazing watching the videos and seeing how great the AI is, seeing, it can identify a stop sign and show somebody running a stop sign, showing all of that. And obviously, once customers see that, and once it just becomes so clear how advanced the technology is to help people.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's funny, a lot of times we get caught up in the video and how many videos or what kind of videos or what kind of behaviors, and those are all really important parts of the solution. You want to make sure you can capture and identify anything that could lead to a potential accident. What we refer to those as our leading indicators. So texting and driving is not always going to lead to a heartbreaking event or a near miss accident. There's a lot of times it's sounds like an oxymoron, but it's not safe texting and driving, but there's texting and driving that's not leading to a near accident on the road. But if you do that over time and you continue to do that over time, it's likely going to lead to something in the future. So anything that could lead to an accident is a behavior that you want to be able to address. And that's where those advanced capabilities of a camera become important. So excessive yawning or texting and driving or looking at a phone, all actually start to become important. But if you get caught up in just thinking about the video, and if you think about the solution as a video solution, you're missing a big part of it, which we kind of talked about earlier, which is how do you coach the driver? You need to make sure that you have really good actionable data that's going to your drivers. And there's a big discussion about empowerment and in culture and how you do this in a way that doesn't push back or result in pushback from your drivers and your managers because it feels like Big Brother, or they don't have enough time to coach or be coached. So what we really focus on, in addition to, look, these are events that are really important to making sure your fleet's safe, but just as or more important is how you're going to coach. How do you get that information in front of the drivers? And how do you allow them to know what they need to improve so that they can make those changes and be safer on the road? But most importantly, do the job that they were hired for. And the majority of our customers are not professional drivers. They're not over-the-road trucking companies that have that professional expertise as a driver and are hired for that. These are landscaping companies or utility companies that actually have a very different skill set. It's critical to the job that they do. They're up on power lines. They're restoring power in the middle of storms and tornadoes and hurricanes, but they have to drive a vehicle as part of their job. So you're talking about a very different circumstance for these drivers to be hired to go do something very specific, but also have to drive a vehicle safely. So it's really about empowering them, giving them the information, and making sure there's a way that they understand what they can improve and change that allows them to do their job. So
that is interesting how it's a two-part job for most of our customers. And in talking about, you've been doing this for a decade now, what are you seeing happening in our industry now that you haven't seen in the past?
There's consolidation for sure. I think we've seen that for a while, going back to Verizon. They kind of started this big acquisition frenzy and bought some of the biggest companies in the space over the span of 3 to 4 years. And you're still seeing some of that. But I think you're starting to see kind of a smarter approach to our space and kind of a bigger, more expanded view of the tech stack and what fleets are looking for and how they're trying to use data. I'd say that there's a much more educated buyer. There's an evolution of the buyer and a younger generation of fleet managers coming into the space. The existing fleet management crowd is adopting technology quicker. You're seeing people hired with different skill sets to come in and be data analysts or to manage the data. When you first adopt a solution like telematics and smart cameras, you're probably not prepared for the amount of data that you're going to have access to, and you've gone from nothing before to all of this data that can absolutely be overwhelming. So even when you have advanced features in your software to help manage that data and make it actionable, there's all these different things that are happening. So I think the biggest thing we're seeing right now is that companies are far more interested in their ability to aggregate that data, to use BI and analytics tools, and really carve out what's important and cut through the noise and get to what's actionable and what they need to do. And you're seeing a lot of evolvement in the technology, and vendors focusing on that, and customers looking for those types of solutions, I'd say.
Well, good. They can find that solution with us also. And I have to ask you, obviously, you've been doing this for a while. You obviously like your job. Where do you get your energy?
My energy.
Yeah.
Well, I have an 8-month-old, so I think the majority of my energy is, keeping up with things at the house. But, I think that's a big part of my purpose and what I do, and what motivates me to go out and, try and accomplish things and help, GPS Insight as a company. But honestly, I said I didn't have, the expectation when I was hired to be at a place for 10 years, not with anything in particular, about GPS Insight, just because I didn't think I'd be anywhere. But I truly have enjoyed what we do and the people that I work with. And I think there's such a massive opportunity, and we have so much potential and such a great group of talented people at the company that, that's what keeps me motivated and gives me energy and keeps me excited for what I get to do.
I love it. 8-month-old and coworkers and a mission. So thank you very much, Tyler. I appreciate it.
No problem. It's been a pleasure. Thanks, Carla.
Again, I'm Carla Wardin on the GPS Insight podcast, and I've been talking with Tyler Mortensen, our VP of Strategic Growth. Thanks for listening.